people. Believe our hope so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will happen like God blue skies. I love to make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling? It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show, my people. Believe our hope, so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will happen under God blue skies. I love to make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB.
All right, welcome. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Thursday. It is the 9th day of the month of January 2025. And we welcome you to the program this morning. I'm Nuri Muhammad. And we do have a guest coming in later, but we will open the phone lines and begin our conversation or continue our conversation for this week. As you know, we go through certain steps before we get to the main course. We give you a look at the weather, which has been a little chilly and wet, and we want to know what the forecast is coming up with this weekend. So we'll be hearing from Tariq Matthews, and let's go to him now.
Good morning. Conditions are becoming less moist over our area. The 24-hour forecast: sunny skies with some cloudy spells today and partly cloudy to cloudy tonight. Shower activity will be isolated with the chance for a few more, mainly along central and southern coastal areas this afternoon, then mostly over the south tonight. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 79 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 81 inland, and 68 up in the hills. The low temperatures for tonight will be around 73 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 68 inland, and 61 up in the hills. The winds will be from northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and the sea conditions will be moderate. A high tide will occur this morning at 7:01, a low tide this morning at 11:23, another high tide this evening at 5:47, and another low tide early tomorrow morning at 1:41. The sun will rise this morning at 6:25 and will set this evening at 5:34. The moon will rise this afternoon at 1:37 and will set early tomorrow morning at 3:13. In the sargassum forecast, latest satellite imagery suggests that there is a slight increase in sargassum in the area. However, chances of sargassum affecting beaches and any potential impacts remains low. The outlook for Friday and Friday night is for mainly fair weather conditions. Showers, if any, will be isolated. For more details on our forecast, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we end this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
Belize since 1989. Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
After concluding an application process, the government of Belize will move to appoint Deputy Maria Rodriguez as the Auditor General. This is the same deputy who the Senate denied being the temporary Auditor General for 4 months. There are questions about the functionality of the office under a Rodriguez leadership, given that she has been a part of the same structure under which there was a lot of infighting in the audit department. The Prime Minister on Wednesday reported that only 3 people applied for the position and they must move forward.
Yes, we went through the process. We advertised that 3 persons applied. We had the Cabinet Secretary, the Financial Secretary, and the CEO for the Public Service that did the interview process. Each one of them were interviewed extensively, and the Cabinet Secretary informed Cabinet yesterday that they will be recommending the deputy, I'm trying to remember the lady, is it Rodriguez? Maria Rodriguez. They will be recommending her as to take over the post of the Auditor General. Obviously, that is something that has to be approved by the legislature. So at the next House meeting, we're going to present it and hope and expect that we will accept the recommendation that has been made. And then it goes to the Senate and then to the Governor General.
So no one from outside applied?
No, those are the only three that applied.
So returning,
applied.
Sorry, returning
two persons from the audit department and one person that worked at the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit.
And do you foresee that it's just going to be something that will have to be accepted? Because of course, on the sidelines, you have the issues, the internal issues with her.
We went through the process and we advertised the post, and these are the people that applied. And if we don't accept it, then it's almost like damn if you do, damn if you don't. If we don't accept it, we're going to be accused that we don't want to appoint an auditor general and that we need to have an auditor general. And if we do, they are still going to criticize us. Well, then we're just going to take action. We're just going to proceed with the process that started.
It has asked the court to strike out the application of the Belize Peace Movement, BPM, for Schedule 1 of the Representation of the People's Act, ROPA, to be declared unconstitutional. If that were to be granted to the BPM, it would mean that the government would have to conduct a redistricting exercise ahead of the next general elections to ensure that electoral divisions are as equal in number of voters as possible. Towards the end of this year, the government appointed Senior Counsel Eamon Courtney to represent the Attorney General and Senior Counsel Godfrey Smith to represent the Elections and Boundaries Commission. The Attorney General filed an affidavit last year in respect of the strikeout application, and the BPM must respond to this by January 13. Yesterday, the Prime Minister reiterated that time has run out for the redistricting exercise to happen before the next general elections.
I don't know the details, but yes, I don't think that was filed properly. But more importantly, we have to be also practical. Whilst I firmly believe that there must be redistricting, unfortunately, it's still in the National Assembly. Until that comes out from there, then you can have the real proceed with it. But the truth of the matter is that election is upon us, and I don't think we have enough time to be able to do the proper delineation and the lists and having the different representatives to be able to know who's going to be in the area or not. So it's something that I would definitely give special and urgent attention if we're giving the opportunity to form the next government.
2025 is an election year, and the Prime Minister alone has the authority to set the date for the general elections. A minimum of 30-day notice must be given ahead of the poll. The speculation is that it will be called in March. Yesterday, the Prime Minister narrowed it down.
Whilst I've not decided, but I think it's going to be more towards the first half of this year.
And if there's a clean sweep, would you appoint persons from losing political parties to oversight bodies like the Election and Boundaries Commission and push forth with such appointments for the Senate, the 3 Senate seats reserved for the opposition?
Why are you wishing this on me? It would sound good, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we are going to fight to win all 31 seats like in every election. But at the end of the day, we have to respect the wishes of the people, of the Belizean people, and if they should decide to give us the 31 seats, it's something that we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
The idea of a clean sweep by one of the mass parties has been explored as a possibility by political pundit Dr. Dylan Vernon. But yesterday, UDP leader Moses Shine Barrow said that is a pipe dream. He explained that while his UDP is leaving room for mediation with Tracy Panton's Alliance for Democracy, they are working to finalize their slate of 31 candidates to contest the next general elections.
We have, in the United Democratic Party, been working arduously in every constituency for the last 3 years under my leadership. We have intensified the work to prepare and to be ready to deliver victory in each constituency over the last few months, as we know that we are approaching a general elections, which is why mediation, we welcome it, but I have given the public my view that parties are not necessarily serious. And so we have applicants that have been approved, but we are staying the process of approval in order to have given a chance for the other side to come to the table and do a coalition as outlined. But those applicants are stakeholders in the constituency, and they are ready to go. And they are working and they are doing their part. And that's why we're having these regional meetings. And once we make the decision, they will be ready to go. They won't be on their back foot because they're already doing the work, because these are people that love their constituencies. These are people that want to serve, and so they're ready to serve. So have no doubt, this talk of a sweep will not happen. I appreciate the academics and the political pundits, and there is always a possibility of anything. There's a possibility that the UDP will form the next government and upset all of those naysayers. A day in politics is a lifetime, so we are ready to deliver for the UDP in the coming general elections.
Barrow also clarified that the photograph that he issued on Monday with Eastern Division standard bearers, including applicants for standard bearer. Therefore, in the case of Jose Espat, Barrow says that he's only one of several applicants to run in Albert. Espat himself later in the day, on Monday, stated that he's merely contemplating running at this time and a decision has not yet been made. In the bigger picture, Barrow says that they are contemplating several possibilities. One option still on the table is for the UDP to run in a coalition with 4 AFD candidates, but excluding John Saldiva. At the same time, Barrow says that they are also approaching 4 AFD members to come back to the UDP fold. Those are Kaya Nortz, Omar Figueroa, Colette Patrick Fowler, Queen Squares, Godwin Haylock, and Panton herself. Diaspora Belizeans are also among those being impacted by the latest deadly California wildfires happening in the southern part of the state from the Pacific coast towards Pasadena. The fires raged hundreds of structures in their path and forced the evacuation of over 70,000 people. They were made worse by what is called the Santa Ana winds, a seasonal phenomena that made the fires spread quickly. Images from the impacted area appears as if out of a movie. Menelek Marin Coleman is currently in Pasadena on the front lines and shared the following.
The fire started in the canyons above Pasadena and Altadena, and though it started as a forest fire due to the high winds that we experienced in LA last night, up to about at least 50 miles per hour, the embers from the canyon fire spread down to the valley of Altadena, where a lot, over 20 to 30, if not more homes have been destroyed due to the flames. Right now, the fire is 0% contained. There are numerous houses and businesses still going up in flames. And one of the biggest problems that I've read that the city is having is that there's not enough water in the fire hydrants, which is a city thing. Also, we don't have enough firemen to cover all of these fires that's going on in Los Angeles County right now, between Pasadena and the fires that happened yesterday in the Palisades in Malibu. The city is completely overwhelmed with just everything. Our prayers go out to the families and the people who have lost a lot of their belongings.
Spoke to Dr. Yvonne Goff, a Belizean dentist who has been living in Southern California for 10 years. She was forced to evacuate when the fire had engulfed some 20 acres. Now it covers over 12,000 acres. She told us that it happens really quickly and added that she had never experienced any wildfire coming so near.
It was just surreal because I thought, oh, this can't be happening to me. So
Have you been through something like this before?
no, I've never been even near a fire like this, a wildfire. So, but I would always see it on TV and thought it would never happen to me.
And you've been living in that area for how long?
Um, Probably about 10 years, and I have never seen anything like this. You know, just like how there's like hurricane warnings, sometimes there earthquake warning, how to prepare for earthquake. Well, it's the same thing. There's how do you prepare for a fire? Of course, the fire comes suddenly and you don't know, you may panic. So what they did was they told us to evacuate. And so there's always, news features that will tell you how to prepare for a fire. And for me, I kind of panicked. I said, well, what should I take, Or I kept thinking, well, I'm going to be coming right back. So I had like whatever cash I had, I make sure I kept that. Um, and in terms of clothing, I just took one extra set of clothes to take with me, my toothbrush, and just had to leave. So yeah, it's crazy.
And now what is the situation? You haven't been able to return. Like where did you go to and what are you looking at now in terms of the situation you face there?
Yeah. Well, we had to leave. Um, I think we kind of left a little bit earlier than most people, but at that time people were panicking. And I did see on the news people saw the fire coming. They jumped out of their cars, left their cars there, and blocking the pathway for the fire engines to come. So that was not a good idea. So I'm kind of glad we left a little bit early. It took a long time to get out of where we were. And then I'm, been lucky and blessed to have my sister. She lives about 35 miles away. And so that's where I am right now.
Goff reported that they were able to contain the fire just across the boulevard from where she lives in a canyon which slopes downward. We also spoke to Bilal Morris, who works in central Los Angeles as a school teacher. He says that they were impacted by the smoke and classes had to be called off on Wednesday as a result.
Air quality this morning is very terrible, very, very bad. As a matter of fact, they had to send the students home today. Many of the schools in that area, in the Pacific Palisades, Silmar, Altadena, has been closed. We've been a little away from that, but we are seeing the fires. We are seeing the fires of smoke since yesterday with the winds, and the air quality is very terrible. A lot of people are walking around with masks. It's like COVID all over again. Yes, we are in the basin. I sort of saw all of that smoke from their ash is falling down into that basin in central Los Angeles. And I know that there are quite a few Belizeans also that is living out in the Altadena, the Pacific Palisades area, which is around the mountains, close to Malibu on the Pacific Coast Highway. Quite a few Belizeans live out in that area, but those are the two that I know of.
And so it may just very well be the case because of the severity of this crisis that people may lose what they've worked to build for so long.
Absolutely. Wildfires are common in California. It's all natural disasters here. I remember Belize is one day I was there the other day. I looked and had an aerial view going to Mango Creek and watching those fires there in Belize. But yeah, those fires here, a lot of people, most of these people that live in the Pacific Palisades here are people who have um, businesses, you call like alcoholic retreat systems, drug addiction, places that are quiet, as those places are very mountainous, beautiful, near to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And a lot of those, not most of, but a lot of those have burnt out. You have apartment complexes, whole homes. People have lost their whole homes, which is a common thing that you have seen with the fires. But this one here is unprecedented. I think it is the largest it has made the record of the largest uh, uh, wildfire in the South Los Angeles area itself.
All right, then that's our news package for this morning, the 9th day of January 2025. And you can keep tuned to Creme Radio and you'll pick up whenever news hits us here. We will bring that news to you. There's a news brief, however, at 12 o'clock after the morning stew, one at 3 o'clock, and then at 5:15, a full news broadcast. Here on XTV, we bring you the entire news package at 6 o'clock this evening. It's now a minute to 7 o'clock, a very short break. We'll come back and we'll begin the conversation for this Thursday.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize, Morning Vibes. It's a Thursday morning, the 9th day of January 2025, and I'm Nuri Mohammed, and we welcome you for our conversation part of the program this morning. Our number here is 280-5848, and you're welcome to call in and to weigh in whatever area that you would like to touch. Mr. Trump, of course, is bringing forward, it's an amazing how this particular human being can attract as much attention as he has during his previous presidential campaign and the things that he said, like building a wall and et cetera, and calling people S-hole nations, etc., etc. Then he becomes president, controversial president for 4 years. Then at the end of his presidency, he creates an insurrection at Washington, in Washington, D.C., to protest his losing the election. Then he goes through a series of challenges to his authority to do what he did. Some of cases that are still in court now. He runs a campaign, a negative campaign against Mr. Biden. Then he extends that onward to Ms. Harris. And then he wins with over 50 or 60% of the American white population, according to the statistics of the New York Times, voted him back in. And now, before he has even become the president, in fact, because he's called president-elect now, which is that he received the votes, but he has not been inaugurated, which takes place in a couple of weeks, I believe. The point is that he maintains this level of energy and draws this amount of attention around the world to everything he says and everything he does. What are some of his latest? Well, what's clearly coming out is that he somehow seems to want to resurrect or energize the Monroe Doctrine. If you heard about the Monroe Doctrine, which comes from President Monroe in the United States, who had this vision, expansionist vision, that the United States should be not just its states, but it should in fact be this entire hemisphere, this entire part of the world, from North America all the way down, should in fact be considered the reign of the United States. This is under the doctrine of this president. And there were other presidents that followed up with that mindset to establish that this is our area, I used to call it, this is our backyard. And so you who are over in the other part of the world, don't even mess with coming over into this part. And some say, oh, that started with Russia. And I think, no, that started way back with England, and them making arrangements with England that we don't want you in this area. That was the whole controversy of England pulling out of areas of Central America, except for British Honduras and for aspects of the Bay Island. But all these areas of Nicaragua and the other parts of Central America that the British owned, the Americans was able to say, no, we don't want you in this area. You're able to handle that area there in the Caribbean, and you could handle British Honduras, but we want to handle this area here. So it's an interesting history to read, and it has sort of gone dormant. We never thought about this American doctrine of hemispheric control. We knew it was happening. We knew that this was the influence of the United States, but it was not predominant. It had become kind of subtle. It had the paradigm had sort of changed from this idea of might is right to a kind of an accommodating, kind of kumbaya nation relation, that even if you're a small nation, you still have the equal rights of those who are powerful nations. I read the UN Charter that you are supposedly able, as an independent sovereign state, to have rights, and therefore you could sue other nations, you could take them to the United Nations as a court. All of this kumbaya aspect of the early United Nations concept. Now all of that is gone. We are seeing what's going on in the Gaza. The United Nations is saying, stop it. This is wrong. But the power of the nations are continuing to do what it's doing. The latest report I saw last night coming out of the Gaza Ministry of Health says that 46,000 people have been reported killed during this genocidal move on the part of Israel over Gaza. The United Nations has condemned them. The ICJ has come out to say, listen, we have strong indications here that you are committing genocide. Stop it. It's making no difference. So this idea that might is right and the power of mighty nations over small nations is now becoming a factor again. Why is this important to us, and why you bring up that kind of thing, Nuri? Because we got a situation like that with our neighbor. That's a powerful nation there that has military powers that used to frighten us years ago. We've kind of moved away from that in a sense of saying, well, maybe they know and do something like that. Maybe they will follow the protocols of international relations and not be aggressive, etc., etc. This is what we've been saying. We're thinking that. But at the same time, we're looking at what's going on in the world, where we see that kind of behavior and that kind of attitude, whether it's the Israelis dealing with the Palestinians, or the Russians dealing with the Ukrainians, or many other hot spots that don't come to us unless they come through the news, and we don't always hear what is going on at the time that it's happening. Sometimes it's not until months later that we're actually finding out about these aggressions. But what seems to be very clear is the behavior of powerful nations flexing their muscles. We saw what Venezuela was doing just back in September, flexing its muscles that it would invade Guyana because of this idea that there were certain parts of Guyana as territory that they believe belongs to them. So we have to be very aware of this and not fall asleep. We cannot allow us. I'm glad that the Prime Minister, by the way, when one of the reporters asked him whether he will accept migrants that they are trying to deflect from the United States, will they allow these people to come through Belize? Remember, we had the issue of the caravan, and this was when Minister Courtney was foreign minister. We had the whole controversy as to whether or not these people are going to be coming in here or what is going to happen. I'm glad that the Prime Minister made it very clear that his government's position is that they will not accept pressure from the United States forcing migrants heading to the United States to be diverted into areas of Central America. The Guatemalans have already agreed. The Guatemalans have already agreed, which means that that's very close to us. What is our position? So I was very happy to hear the Prime Minister making it very clear that Belize will not accept migrants heading towards the United States to be diverted into Belize. But this might is right idea, and this posturing of Mr. Trump. He has said that his vision is that the United States should be from the southern border with Mexico all the way up to an area which we have not even thought about for so many years, is Greenland. Greenland. Many people want to know, where is Greenland? Greenland is a territory way above Canada, and like going towards Alaska, and it's not inhabited by many people, but the United States, according to Mr. Trump, considers this an extremely strategic position, and that it should be owned and managed by the United States of America. He's also insinuated, I think it started as a joke, but has taken on traction, that Canada should be incorporated and become the 51st state of the United States. So people may say he's just posturing, drawing attention. I've heard some journalists say that he's only trying to divert from other problems in the world, and so he's creating the controversy that he knows the news media will move to him like moth running to a bulb. But the reality is that he's not going to do these things. But one has to be concerned about the rhetoric of a leader of the most powerful nation in the world, and that his posture is one of, Big Brother is here, and there's no compromise. We are in charge. We're telling you, Hamas, that if these hostages are not released by Inauguration Day, they will be hell to face, not only for you in the Gaza, but for the entire Middle East. I mean, that's some very provocative terms for a man who has powerful arsenal, a powerful military, and for him to be making statements like that it's very troubling, because that's not the world order that we had come to accept. We had come to accept that matters like war and invasion and aggression was supposed to be pulled back, and we were supposed to be living in a world of diplomacy. It doesn't matter what size you are, but it is the right and the justice of your cause that should be the most important thing. Well, what happened to all anything there? You're talking about changing the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America, something that had been there long ago. You just want to do a head tech? I don't understand it. You just want to come in, change that just like that. And then the madness of the Panama Canal, where many of our parents, our grandfathers, and in some cases of us, our fathers, actually were part of the builders of the Panama Canal way back when that canal was being constructed by an American company. I believe it was as far back as about 100 years ago, 1914, 1915. The construction continued much longer than that, of course, but I think that's when it started. Here's our first call. Welcome, caller.
Yes, morning, Brother Nuri.
Yeah, morning, Brother Will.
Yeah. Hey, Brother Nuri, I mean, I listened to your conversation, and I just hope that the listeners realize that this could have some serious implications for us too.
Indeed.
Because Guatemala are ready to sweeten up to this man.
Indeed.
And of course, when Guatemala begins to aggress us, you don't know that we as a nation can go to ask the U.S. for help, because before they even start off, we don't let them know plain that we're not going to take no refugees, so we know they ain't not feeling good books, right? So Guatemala ain't not feeling good books. So when Guatemala start to continue to aggress and come over, we said who we going to talk to, we need to begin to make them plans from now. And their plans should not include the United States. We need to make plans with other countries to straighten up our borders. It's going to, we are trying to sweep this thing under the rug and trying to ignore it and not bring it up and not discuss it. But it's going to affect us seriously.
Yeah, but in the context of a Trump era, which nation you think would defy the Trump regime and side with us on a border dispute if we...
Well, I think that we need to contact the Commonwealth nations, the CARICOM, and begin to build our strength there. You know, not military strength, but, you know, in terms of advocating.
Diplomacy.
To make sure that Guatemala respects our borders. Because right now, Guatemala is not respecting our borders, and we are ignoring that. We are doing nothing, absolutely nothing, to try and, you know, correct the situation and to try and straighten up the put-in infrastructure that will prevent people from coming over. It's a free-for-all. Right now, you know, I mean, you could see what is happening. And Guatemalans are getting more and more bored. I mean, I want to take this opportunity to applaud the guys. The Rangers are tied for doing their job, and, you know, like, basically, I mean, I don't know if you heard the news, but they were shot at by Guatemalan fishermen.
Yeah, so I didn't... yes, yes.
You know, and I want people to notice that Tide has recently taken over the management of the Zapalila Keys Reserve. Recent. Less than a year now. I think it was April last year. But less than a year now. And the amount of things that they have corrected in that area has been run for the past 20 years when it comes to Guatemala. You know, it's amazing that you have a non-government organization that went out there, and I understand that in 1 month they collected more fees than the people out there who was the government collecting. In 1 month they collected more fees than the government did in the whole year.
What are the fees being paid for?
Well, Guatemalans and Honduranians come and visit the area, so it's like an
Okay, so for tourism, for tourism's sake? All right, I got you.
Our revenues to the government.
And it's Tide that has been given responsibility to manage all of that?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
I had
just like how Audubon manages.
Yeah, like the co-management system. But I was intrigued by the report of the gunfire. I was told that it was Tide that was returning fire or shooting at these trespassers.
It can't be Tide because Tide Rangers don't carry weapons.
All right, I'm glad you're clearing that up, because that's the point that I'm trying to clarify. Is I was given the impression that it was Tide that had weapons, but you're saying no, they did not have weapons.
No, Tide Rangers don't carry weapons.
All right, I thought they were returning fire.
Tide Rangers are accompanied by Belize Coast Guard.
All right.
Both have weapons.
Okay, and so the Coast Guard is also there as their backup?
I believe that Coast Guard was on the boat, yes, but I don't think that the Coast Guard, the way I got it was that the Guatemalan tried to fire at Tide to try and keep them away from pulling up their gill nets. Which, you know, gill nets, when you pull up, if you could look at the gill nets that was full up, you could see a lot of our reefs being put up. So I would think again, you know, I mean, just as working together, our other NGOs would get together and sing Tide praises for doing such a great job to protect the Belize barrier reef.
Yes, indeed.
You know, I mean, there need to be
well, you know,
Tide and their rangers for protecting Belize's barrier reef.
Yeah. And a bit of history, you had a lot to do with Tide in its initial stages. So let us also, I know you've changed your cap so many times, but let us, those of us who are old enough to remember 20 or more years ago, it was you there at Tide. So, but that's not your subject today.
You know, but I've always remained in conservation. I mean, I like the environment, so I always advocate for the environment no matter where I am, not only if I'm working with an environmental NGO or not. As I believe I'm always advocating for the environment.
Right, yeah.
But I just want Belizeans to pay attention. I'd like to ask the government to put more resources around the border.
Yeah.
The dry river is coming. I don't hear them or see them doing anything. And you know, beginning now, right?
Yeah.
Beginning now, the Guatemalans are preparing to invade the Colombia first to take out land again like they did last year. Because the weather is getting better. On the maritime area, as you know, Guatemala has 17 million people, of which probably 15 million of them are Catholics, who are encouraged to eat only seafood during the Lenten season, and that is why the price of seafood goes up so much. You know? So I just think that we need to pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, on the big picture, we cannot. I mean, the equipment that assaulted the VTV on the Sarsoon was bought with U.S. taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah.
Did the U.S. do anything, knowing that their equipment, it's the same, it's just on a real small scale, but what's going on with the disease? A lot of those things that's killing people, where have they hid?
Yeah, those weaponry come from the Americans. And,
So, well, anyhow, I just wanted to share that, and, I work to leave them.
Yeah.
Okay, but before I go, you know that the election season is coming, and I just want to point out that if the elections to Miss Tamai over there at elections of Bunches, if she sign up, or if the respected attorney, Mr. Sabino, who was signed up on an election before any redivisioning exercise happened, that it would be another illegal election taking place in Belize. Come on, a lot of times we blame politicians, all of the politicians, but we have people who are not politicians, because Mr. Mai is not a politician, Mr. Puga is not a politician, right? But we are quick to blame politicians. This is our own Belizean people who are overseeing the demise of our nation.
I'm a little puzzled right there. Are you suggesting that it's beyond political influence why Mr. Mai would sign on and say, let's move forward on the next election?
No, but she is in charge. So if
you're saying
the licensing department,
you're saying that she can.
I allow the bus to run without brakes, then I am guilty. Am I not?
Yeah, but I understand that analogy, but
it is Mr. Mai and I would say the chairman of the Elections and Boundaries Committee, who is Mr. Puga.
I don't know that it works like that in Belize, though. Regardless to administration, I have not seen a government official having.
But the people of the election to say, look, we cannot conduct an election because we have not done, we are not following the Constitution.
Yeah, but that would be defying all the way up to the Prime Minister, who's already said, let's move ahead. Let's
because the Prime Minister said, let's move ahead.
No, I'm dealing with real politics. I'm not dealing with logic. I'm dealing with real politics. I'm really dealing with the reality of how politics work.
People in government, let's say all the people who are overseeing the election, right? Decide, like, look, we are not going to participate in something that is illegal. That's like saying that, if the commissioner or the minister say, make the plane run back at the Dolores and send the police there, we don't have nothing because the minister or the politician said so.
Yeah, but let's talk real. How long do you think Ms. Tomaya would last? If she made, but the reality, yes, I am in agreement with you, man, in the sense of saying that we need to stand on principle, but I'm saying within the politics of our situation, she would be replaced.
Right.
That's all, she would be replaced. And the election, the only delay in the election would be the delay in instituting a new person to replace Mr. Mai. But Mr. Mai can't do something within the culture of the last period of our independence. We have not seen any public officer that stands up and defies the process to the point where he's saying to government, look, I know and do that, no matter what. This is what the Constitution say. I'd love to see that person. I'd like somebody to call me and remind me of that level of intestinal fortitude in our public officers. They all basically call to the electorate, to the governance, and they do what they are being told, or if they don't, then they resign. And that resignation is always a very symbolic thing. We move you out easily as we move somebody else. I'm just going on my observation. I might be wrong.
What I am saying is that we, as Belizeans, if we truly love our country, we will make.
I understand that principle.
Because
yes.
If Mr. might say, you know what, I cannot sign up on this election because it will be illegal. Yes, they will replace her with somebody else. If somebody else gets there and they truly love this country, they will do the same. And eventually the government will get the same. We need Belizeans to stand up for the right of Belize. The reason why our country is going downhill is because we have too many people who are just signing up. I mean, look, right now you have the situation, and I must admit that I'm not totally familiar with it. But just a few days ago, we understand that they did not renew the contract for the post commissioner because he was saying what they are about to do is totally wrong. So before he signed up on it, he preferred to be replaced.
Yeah.
So if we had like 100 people up there like him, then they would get the sense of 100 out of 400,000 people. Come on, we believe that we need to make some sacrifice. You know?
Yes.
I mean, we need to stand for what is right. If we go into another election, the law is there. It is clear.
And
you know, on the last election, this is more than 4 years ago, they campaigned and said, as soon as we get in, we will make it right. Come on. You know,
and if I
the same thing the UDP did, and now this thing about them, because if they, you know, and again, like, you know, I mean, this is where, I mean, I make this appeal for attorneys to join the case where Ms. Fitz bravely has taken up to those that have to, you know, take the government to court to ensure that this redivision is happening before the general election. It can happen, you know. Don't tell me that time is too close. We have until November for election, you know. I mean, so we need the Belizeans, right? Not the politicians, because we know it won't happen with the politicians. But we need the Belizeans. I mean, the fact that's going on with Kane, the UDP right now, you would think like they could do it, say, you know what, let's make this thing right. That was one of the attorney joined Miss Pitt and try and get the government to do that. Because if we have attorneys that stand up and say, we will join this fight and make it right, it will be right. You know what I mean? Back in the days when they wanted to sign off on the heads of an agreement and stuff, a lot of government people wanted, but they believed that people stood up, right? And they didn't sign off on it. Otherwise, it would be a complete different nation today.
All right. Okay, brother. Good. We got to leave it there.
Thank you very much.
Yes, man. You're welcome. All right. We must stop here, and we must now stop. Caller, we'll take your call right after this break. This 2 cents cam is brought to you by Fort Camp Security. Fort Security. welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Thursday morning, the 9th day of January 2025. And now we go into conversation with our guest. She is Mrs. Nicole Johnson, Swazo Johnson. She was born in Belize and moved to the United States about 14 years ago. She's a proud mother of 3 beautiful and intelligent children, girls, as a matter of fact. She has served in the U.S. military. She's a notary and also a full-time honor roll graduate student and entrepreneur. Caller, I will ask if you could please call back as soon as we completed the conversation with Ms. Johnson. That way we could give full attention to your call. Are you there, Nicole?
Good morning.
All right, good morning. I know that you're way over there in Arizona, so you're, I think, an hour or so behind us. So thank you for the sacrifice of waking up to be with us this morning. Let me start firstly by welcoming you and talking to you basically about your 2 books that you have written. Can we start there, firstly?
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Let me start with, you have written 2 books, according to your PR statement here. And I did get a chance to chat with you for a brief time yesterday, and thank you. That was a wonderful conversation. Let's start with the 2 books. What are the names of the books?
So the first book that I wrote initially is called Maya's Story, A Belizean Girl. That book is encompassed of 15 different stories. So it's a book of short stories. So it has 15 different stories. It's a book of me coming to America. It's a book about betrayal. It's a book about going up the corporate ladder. It's a book about systemic racial systemic rather. It's about single mother. It's about being married. So it will resonate with everyone. The second book is called Imani, The Darkness Within the Rainbow. It's about a girl going, struggling with her identity. And we talked a lot about this yesterday, I think. It's about her being a demisexual and sapiosexual person, whereby she struggles with her identity as well. She struggles with different things about her and loneliness and going through her battles and everything. What I failed to mention yesterday, because we were so caught up on her sexuality, is that she is guided by a figment of her imagination, which I named Sweets. And she's also guided by her ancestors as well, in order to help her find her truth and live in her in her authenticity.
Yes. And believe me, that conversation yesterday was very engaging, particularly when you were talking about her particular sexual orientation, which we came to learn throughout our conversation is not the theme of your story, but you have incorporated that into the story because you said your experience with your own daughters there is that there are many young people that are searching, especially now that the environment has become so confused about what gender are you, etc. And so you said you wanted to incorporate an aspect of that into the character. Can you explore that for a minute?
Right. I wanted to create some level of depth to her. I just didn't want her to be just an ordinary person. So like I explained to you yesterday, demisexuality is a person whereby you have to have some type of emotional bond with another individual before you can have any type of sexual connection with them or activity with them, as like I stated to you yesterday. And the sapiosexual is whereby a person is attracted to someone intelligence.
Okay.
So yesterday we were going back and forth about it, and I'm like, no, it doesn't mean this. This is what it means. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter about her, having a level of depth, because like what we spoke about yesterday is that, your physical appearance is going to fade. If you are mentally stimulated by someone, there's levels to your relationship with that person, and it can be platonic as well. It doesn't just have to be you're in a romantic relationship with that person.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
You still look so puzzled.
No, no, no. I hope you don't mind me looking puzzled. I was intrigued by our conversation yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. I left going and doing some research from some of the things that you shared. So it was a good conversation, Nicole. But tell our audience why you felt the need to make this a part of Imani's character, and as you said to me yesterday, that's not the leading thing in her experience.
Right.
It is only one of those matters that you wanted to explain about her character. But tell us about her travels, her going to Brazil, her experiences there, and what was that about?
So Imani is very spiritual as well. Like I said, she is guided by her ancestors, and she resonates with the water, and she's grounded. And I kind of have her Imani kind of resonated with me as well, because um being very spiritual and always making sure that my chakras are aligned and I'm grounded and I'm living in the moment and everything of that nature. I try to have her kind of match up to me as well. So I kind of use me as a muse when writing Imani. So whenever I'm feeling anxious, like I mentioned to you yesterday, it's no, I make it known that with my diagnosis of having depression and everything else, I always try to be mindful. I always try to be grounded and ensure that I am in touch with myself and making sure that I am aware of my surroundings and everything else. So that's what I wanted to bring light to as well. I wanted to know that sometimes we do get overwhelmed and everything, and it's okay for us to sit back and just reevaluate everything before we actually make a big decision, and use our discernment before we actually make a conscious decision about what it is that we need to do in life. So that is what the Dimani, she's struggling with her identity. She's struggling with her career path. She doesn't know what she's doing. So she's just, and I believe that everyone will be able to resonate with Imani, because at some point in our life, we're like, what next? What do we do? I believe that at some point, so whether it be we go to God or whatever whoever serve, or we go to our ancestors, or we just need to sit with ourselves for a minute and just figure things out, or whether we need to travel. Like I moved, I left my safety net and I came over here. And if I had stayed in Belize, I don't think I would have been as successful as I was. And it's not because I don't have, I just feel like it's because of, I know that my dad was there, my mom was there, but now I'm so financially liberated and I'm able to do stuff on my own and without having to be like, oh, dad, I need this, or mom, I need this. No, I'm able to be self-sufficient and I'm motivated on my own because I know that I have stuff to take care of.
Oh,
So
great.
that's Imani.
Yeah. So it's in a way it's a maturation process for a young girl coming into herself and dealing with some of the challenges that she has to take on that journey to self-fulfillment. Is that a
Yes,
good description?
self-recognition, definitely.
All right, that's just one book, but you have
That's
two
just
books.
Imani, yes.
Yeah, you have two books. The other book is called what?
Maya's story. So it's a Belizean girl.
Okay,
Um, so what it is about, it talks about financial struggles. It
okay,
talks about the immigration process, about coming into United States. It talks about so it talks about how hard you have to work when you came over here. Those are conversations that people I feel don't talk about when they go back to Belize.
Yeah,
They make it seem like coming into
like
United
it's
States
like
is, and
a
being over
city of
here is a
gold.
bed of
Yeah,
roses. It is not.
it definitely is not.
No,
Yeah,
it's
but
a mental struggle, I tell you, and it's a different struggle from Belize. And everywhere you go, you will have a type of struggle, but it's a different beast over here,
I
and
see.
people don't talk about those conversations at all.
Yeah. What's the difference between the personality of Imani and Maya? Or are they the
Both of
same
them are
person going in the same two different experience, but the same person?
both of them are resilient. However, Imani is more emotionally intelligent.
I see. And you wrote Imani first, right?
No, I wrote Maya's story first. So I wrote Maya's story when I was at the lowest point with my diagnosis.
Okay.
That's the recommendation that I told you about with my therapist.
Yes.
And I did my journals and everything. So I feel like people stereotype mental health. I don't. I feel like we do need to prioritize our mental health, because if we're not mentally well, we're not
Yes.
okay. Um, so like I said, I spoke to my therapist and she's like, I really feel like you should journal. It's going to, and we talk about different coping mechanisms as well. We talk about mastery, and one that resonated with me was writing, because I had used to write poems a long time ago, but so writing came so easily for me. And so I started writing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's talk about my struggles, because I was working 3 jobs
Wow.
before where I'm at now. So we know I went back and I reflect and I cried and I wrote and I and I'm like, and here comes Maya's story.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I know it's kind of personal, but I need to delve
Hmm.
a little bit into that personal area of wellness and mental and anxieties and going to a therapist. These are things that we as Belizeans don't normally share
Right.
publicly. I don't know why we have this shame, and it's so ridiculous to have shame over something that you don't have control over. But you did
Hmm.
share that your therapist, in combating the issues that you were dealing with, advised you to write more, to go into journaling your experiences. And I think that those who are listening to you, both young women as well as young men, can benefit if they understand that process. So can you share a little bit more of what your therapist said to you, what you did, and what results are you seeing from that?
So I feel like everyone should be in therapy, honestly. But the first step is recognizing that you need help.
Yeah,
The first step is asking for help.
yeah.
Because if you don't ask for help, nobody will able to help you.
But let me
So
stop you there, Nicole. The reason, and I want to turn this into a conversation,
of
you said
course.
something provocative, that you believe everybody should have a therapist. That's an old school thought that goes way, way back. Um, that some people felt that a lot of our problems would be lessened if we had a good person that we could talk to, not necessarily
Hmm.
in a confession box, but just a person
Hmm.
who can listen to us and we listen to ourselves as we're talking to that person, which is the role that a
Right.
therapist plays. But most people believe that when somebody say, "Oh, you need counseling," that you're so kind of saying kind of going to lead craziness, you know what I mean? And so, because I'm afraid for that stigma, I stay away from an area that I could really get some help in sitting with somebody just to clarify some of my thoughts and clarify some of my, so there's no need to fear a therapist.
Hmm.
So please share that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I'm very comical. So whenever someone says, you're crazy, yes, I am. I'm all of the above. But it's all, like I said, it's very good for you as the individual to be honest with yourself, right? And you know when you need help. So it's important for you to recognize that you do need help. disregard what everybody else think, right? Because if you know that something is wrong with you, you're not performing or functioning how you should you not seek help? Even if it's writing down in a book, using journaling, right? It doesn't mean professional help. But what if you just take that and be like, okay, let me just seek some type of help? And one of the things is too, a lot of people don't like to seek help because they don't know that they don't believe that it's going to be kept confidential.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I feel like people, they're, I don't want, because I don't want my business out there.
Yeah. Especially in a Belize where you figure
Yeah,
people will say,
we know everybody want to know your business, right? So that's just what it is.
yeah, yeah. And that
So
to
if
me,
we
that
can
is a
get,
terrible thing. It's terrible because of the stigma. And we used to
right,
associate this with HIV and all these other things. But because of the stigma and you're remaining silent, you become a silent sufferer because you can't
right,
solve the problem if you remain silent. But you're afraid to
right.
talk to somebody.
Right. And if I can be vulnerable, so I started to having symptoms when I was in the military, right? And I started having SIs and I'm like, something is wrong. And I knew that I was
What is an
neglecting my
SI?
daughters,
What is an SI?
suicidal ideations.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh. Oh,
Right?
I
So
see.
I started having SIs and I wasn't feeling like myself. I was neglecting my health. I was not performing my job. I was just not functioning how
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I'm supposed to. And that's when I said, and I was about to deploy to Kuwait. And I said, you know what? I told my sergeant, I won't be able to perform and I don't think that I should be deployed. And
Yeah.
she was like, well, go to behavioral health. And I was so glad that I made that step to seek help
Yes.
because now I'm still a work in progress,
Yes.
but I'm doing better
Yeah.
than I was before. I still struggle with, like I still have my daily struggles, but I am doing way better
Yeah. Yeah.
than I was before.
Michelle, let me say that you're being very personal, and it is almost unusual for us in Belize. It's just not our culture. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because we have a kind of a shaming culture, right? Anybody,
Right.
everybody, lad, man. When I may grow up, you say, lad, you should have shame, you should have shame. And a lot of things that you were being told that we should have been shame about, when you think about it in retrospect, it wasn't something to be ashamed about. But
Right.
we don't, and then the next thing about confidentiality. People
Mm-hmm.
sometimes are even afraid to tell things to doctors because
Right.
when doctors meet with one another at the bar room on Friday and say, boy, you been know that John, that's all. Look, you just come see me. And people know and I hear about that. So it becomes a culture of suppression of your own feelings and the areas that you
Right.
really need to explore. And this is particularly bad in medical because, for example, if you got a problem that you think you might be HIV positive, but you don't want to go because you don't want the stigma of your HIV tests getting out into the community, and then people to watch you, and you to think they know they think that but you to think that then the thing
Right.
you see, and so it hurts people who are having emotional and other health issues, and on top of that, the very stigma of mental health as a health issue as opposed to your insane issue is a big thing, not only here in Belize, but all over the world. So I appreciate
Right.
your being as candid as you are in sharing your own personal experience, and the way you were able to combat that is through writing, and you've produced two very good books, and I understand from yesterday that you plan to produce or publish more. So you said that in the Maya story that
Mm-hmm.
different than the Imani story, which was one narrative, that the
Mm-hmm.
Maya story is broken into 10 short stories. Why did you do that?
15.
15. Oh, wow. Excuse me for cut you short. But what are those individual stories about?
It's different phases of Maya's life. So hence the reason I did mention earlier is that everyone will be able to relate to Maya, whether it be a teenage parent, a single mother, whether it be a wife, whether it be someone who migrated and, came to America not knowing the immigration process,
How about a
whether
young
it be
boy? How about a
someone.
young man? Will a young man also relate to
It
Maya?
also has a boy. Also has a male in there. It also has a male in there. And like I said, everyone is in there.
Okay.
There's a guy in there. He came and he was trying to move up in the corporate ladder, and because he, granted, he was academically inclined. He had everything that he's supposed to have, but he just couldn't move up.
Why?
He couldn't move up
In his
because he
particular
was
story.
heavily melanated.
Marinated means what?
He was heavily melanated.
Oh, have melanated. Me black.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, yeah, melanated indeed. So that means he was too dark for the corporate structure?
Yes. Yes.
I see. Yeah, and so that depressed him.
Yes, however, he did find a way around it.
Okay,
He soared by opening his own business,
okay.
so like I said, in all of the stories, there's silver linings in
All
it.
right, so
It's
they do
showing
win.
that whatever struggles that you went through, you can overcome
You
it.
can make it.
There's a 16-year-old in there where she got pregnant. Which is I was a signal. I got pregnant at 15, if in case nobody knew. I
Okay.
got pregnant at 15. I had my baby. I fell out of school. I went back to school, and now I'm getting my master's.
Great,
So like
great.
I said, don't let anyone deter
Don't
you
let
from
nobody
doing anything
discourage you. Absolutely, sister.
at all.
Absolutely. And matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you're going to go on to your PhD and you're going to write that big novel that you're talking about. And all of that from a person who dropped out of high school because she was pregnant. So don't let they stigmatize you because of one error in your life becomes your whole life. It's only one part of your life.
Right.
So you are showing that, you're proving that. That's great. Well, let me give you
Yes,
some
definitely.
let me give you some final words where the book can be purchased. I see you have here Amazon, but is it local? Is it available locally? Are you going to make it available in our bookshops here?
I am working on it for
Okay.
it to be local. However, now it can be purchased on Amazon. It will be available in Barnes and Noble as well.
Okay.
So I'm just working for it to be available locally.
All right. Very
Gotta
good.
continue to have conversations with my dad.
Very good. Very good. And your dad is the respectable ombudsman of Belize, Major Gilbert Swazo, and he's my brother, and he's the one that alerted me to your achievement. And when I read what you had achieved, I said it would be good to inspire other persons with that same issue that you're dealing with, as well as other young people, male and female, to understand that you
Right.
can achieve if you put yourself to doing it. Thank you very much, Nicole Swazo Johnson, for your time this morning.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope you have an amazing day on purpose.
All right. On purpose, indeed. I will make sure. And thank you again. All the best to you.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Good. We'll take our break and we'll come back and we'll go back to the phones. All right, welcome back. Our telephone lines now, and we must apologize to a couple of callers that were calling us during the time of the interview. They may not have heard the interview, and so they were calling. So our lines are now open, and you can call and make your point. 280-5848, 280-5848. And just continuing along that line that we started with, the theme of might makes right, Mr. Trump has also indicated, and he did this during the campaign, and he is still saying it now, that they want to take back the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was built by the Americans in that area. There were plans to look at where to put this canal from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and how to cut across what is referred to in this area as an isthmus. And they were thinking about doing it in Nicaragua. As a matter of fact, I believe about maybe 5-10 years ago, the Chinese were still entertaining the idea with the Ortega government of Nicaragua that they would finance a new canal in that area. So there's a lot of discussion and a lot of controversy around the Panama Canal, even before Trump. But now he has highlighted it, and he has been focusing on a couple of areas. One is that he is saying this machismo business, that we built the canal and it's ours. And one of the biggest mistakes that President Carter ever made was to sign this agreement with Torrijos in 1977, where there was this treaty of agreeing that the Panama Canal over a period of years would have been returned back to its rightful owner, because it's in the sovereign area and territory of Panama. This is not a separate thing. But what Trump is claiming is that, look, we built this, and we built it during a time when we controlled Panama and we controlled most of Latin America, and we're heading back to that level of control. Some pundits are saying that he's trying to build alliances with all right-wing and militaristic regimes within this region to bolster that idea of a sort of a broader United States conglomerate. And so this idea that he would take back the Panama Canal, including by force, if he does not get it by negotiation, it's an alarming thing to people who are looking at the geopolitics of this region. That's a strong-handed move that goes way, way, way back to the 50s and the 60s, when the United States used to invade, as it invaded areas like Haiti, it invaded areas and had military control in areas like Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Panama, and Colombia, and all of these areas used to be military controlled, but over the or under the influence of the United States. That changed over the last 30, 40 years, where many of these nations were moving towards what is called democracies and putting civilians in place of the military. But it's still a work in progress, because many of these people have been living for a very long time under these military regimes, and the military, even though it is not in visual power, it is the power behind the throne of most of these civilian leaders. Unlike Belize, we don't have that sort of situation. We have the civilians over the military. But in many of these areas, the military is so robust because the military was built up by the United States. And these civilians who have come up trying to superimpose a democratic process over these military regimes have had a very difficult time trying to do that. If they don't have all the generals along with them in their cabinet, then it becomes a situation where you have a civilian cabinet and a military commandant or a military chief of staff or whatever you would call them that are running the military operations, and many times they conflict. And so it's important to understand that when Mr. Trump begins to echo these kinds of sentiment, this might is right, we are in charge now, that we run things now, those kinds of propagandistic terms make people concerned. What would happen? One of the concerns that he has expressed also about the Panama Canal is that the Chinese have gotten such a stronghold in the Panama Canal that, according to him, they run the Panama Canal. Well, certainly Chinese businesses over the last 20 or 30 years have mushroomed, and a lot of where they are doing their manufacturing and their distribution is right there in the Panama area, because it's a transport area. It's where ships come in, ships that come from China, ships that bring in merchandise that are spread over Latin America. They come through that area. And China, being as robust as it is as a manufacturing nation, as a producing nation, is competing with the United States and their production. So they look at China as one of their main enemy. And China has a very strong influential control over the Panama Canal and its process, not the Panamanian government as such, and not in a militaristic kind of way, but just in terms of economics. The Chinese have a very, very strong influence in that area, and that appears to be one of Trump's issues. Because not only is he concerned about combating the Chinese in the Panama area, Panama Canal area, but he's also concerned about bringing on additional tariffs and other issues that he's threatening in trying to so-called bring China under control. So it's an interesting dynamic that we're looking at. He is to be inaugurated, I believe, on the 20th of January, and it begins a 4-year term of Mr. Trump, who has created ricochets in so many areas of the American body politic. We'll take our next break and then we'll come back.
In Belize, we value our families.
280-5848, and we hope that you will call and weigh in. As I said, we had some calls that we had to, in a way, reject or could not take because we were interviewing Miss Nicole. But if you wish to call, you can call us now at 280-5848, and you can weigh in, and we can go from there. Yeah, we spent a bit of time talking about Mr. Trump this morning and some of his policies. Mr. Trump is not our main concern in Belize. We have a lot of our own issues that we need to keep focus on. But the fact is that the United States is the most powerful country in the world. And the United States is an absolute juggernaut in this region. And there is no way that we can observe what is going on in the United States and not, be called to attention. And some of the things that Mr. Trump is saying, he has not said anything directly to Belize. But I think it's somebody posted on Facebook that Miss Kwan, who is the ambassador, a very wonderful person, has been withdrawn, and now we have a charge d'affaires has been brought back in. Welcome, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Nuri.
Yes, sir.
That is great.
Yes, he is.
Akbar.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes, sir. It's very smoky here in California right now because of these fires and everything. I'm in California, but very smoky right now.
Yeah. So I heard they've even stopped schools and such things because of the condition of the atmosphere, no? But you're in California now?
Yeah. I live in Las Vegas, but I'm going to California. I'm going to LA for after the day. But do something real good. But yeah, kind of says I worked in Brentwood. I like to live in Brentwood with OJ did that. OJ Simpson, Brentwood, California. Brentwood is the same thing like this is kind of things. That's where all the stars, basketball players, drug rehabs, Malibu, California. Malibu, California. It's a very high-end community. That's where all the millionaires live at, basically, you can say.
So it's really, it's where the rich live, huh?
Yeah. Better that's where the rich people live, like Malibu, Santa Monica, I worked at Brentwood Electrical before I moved to Las Vegas and transferred out here and everything. But those places are rich, high-end areas where the millionaires live at and stuff like that. You're going to hear about basketball players, movie stars' house being burned. I worked in that area for about 4 years. I worked at Schwarzenegger House, Will Smith, Kardashian House. They all live in that area over there. So you'll be hearing a lot of houses being burned by stars and football players.
Yeah. So it has not impacted the lower end of the economic scale as much as it has the higher end. That's what you're saying. It's more.
It's more of the higher end for the so-called middle class. There's no middle class city people no more, but Altadena, Palisades, Santa Clarita, that's where all the million-dollar houses are. It doesn't affect South Central LA or the ghetto where we live at.
Right. I remember I spent some time in California back in the 80s. And I remember that Santa Ana winds was always a major issue once a year, around this time, as a matter of fact. The winds coming off of the Santa Ana mountains and affecting Southern California. And they're saying that this wind event that was taking place in the start of the week was the Santa Ana winds that caused these fires to get out of control. You know much about that?
Yes. We're dealing with the Santa Ana winds. It's a yearly thing. This year it was up to about 100 miles per hour.
Wow.
112 miles an hour gust winds for the Santa Ana area, which comes from Orange County. These winds affect Nevada, Las Vegas, so
Very high.
You don't want the helicopters in the air going 100 miles an hour.
Right.
Winds for helicopters, right? So they had to delay the helicopters. They went back into action about 12 hours ago. So, you got 6 fires.
Wow.
All of them are not contained. Only one's kind of like 30% contained, but the rest is just going full blast right now.
Yeah. Tell me something, just a little confused here. Were these fires going on before the winds, or these are fires that started after the winds?
It started like right when the wind was started to pick up and everything, that's when it started, the fire started.
Yeah, because I know last year they were dealing with some massive fires in California. Did those fires get put out, and these are new fires?
Yes, sir. You know, and right now it's headed down to the Hollywood Hills by Hollywood, so they had to cancel a lot of acting and stuff like that. By Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard now.
Wow. So it's almost.
So, yeah.
It's.
So it's in the Hollywood Hills right now, going down towards Hollywood right now. Basically.
So Hollywood Hills is where you have that sign that says Hollywood, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So you think the fire might burn? You think the fire might burn up where that Hollywood sign is?
Oh, it could be a possibility.
Wow.
It could be a possibility if you think that fire.
Wow. That's a pretty big fire now. Wow.
Yeah. So I was hearing it earlier, right, about the Panama Canal, right? I remember in college back in the days, I had to do an essay on that Panama Canal. You know, that Panama Canal was designed to be built in the 1894, 95
Right.
by France, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Nicaragua was the original spot where they wanted to have the Panama or the canal.
Yeah.
But due to this volcanic terrain, they put it by Panama, basically. So, you know, Roosevelt helped the Panama until President completed 1903 to like 1914. Took about 11 years to build a Panama Canal.
Yes.
Yeah, to save 3,000 to 5,000 to 4,000 miles coming through the Panama Canal. But the first place it was supposed to be was in Nicaragua. That was the first place it was supposed to be.
Right.
Back in 1890.
Yes.
Yes, sir. A lot of Belizeans, a lot of people from different countries is getting the silences all mixed up, Nuri, right?
Yes.
Why am I saying that? Because everybody thinks just you qualify and you file for asylum, that means you're going to be approved. Now, you know, my side, that's a lawyer's and everything. Asylum, the only way you're going to be approved for asylum most of the time is you got to have some type of court documents from your country showing that you're in danger of your life. Because being poor is not asylum. Anybody's poor in America or got pirates. The pirates is not asylum act. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I got a friend from Ethiopia. He was engaged in Ethiopia. He can't go back to his country because of the gang situation he was in.
Yeah.
There has to be something real big. There has to be a paperwork from your country.
Yeah.
You just got to have asylum.
Yeah. Well, I can speak a little on that because I have been asked to participate in that judicial process. There are a number of youths here who were involved and engaged in gangs and appealed to the United States government for asylum. And they needed justification from here, witnesses from here, to testify before the courts of the danger of these young men coming back to Belize. And so I said I'm familiar with that process, and a number of youths who were active in gangs in Belize are now in an asylum program in the United States as a result of them seeking the government's permission to be an asylum seeker there, you know. So I'm very much familiar with that process, and there are a number of other young males here who were active in gangs who have been who were trying to get into the United States, but of course they got stopped at the border But the objective they had was to try to get into an area like California.
By the way, sir? Yeah, the not the key. Okay, well, we go to smoke shop. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Hello?
Yeah. Look like you got another business. So we'll talk another time.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I was working at a dispensary. I'm working at a weed shop, so the dispensary doing something.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay, let me go work. Sorry about that, sir, but yeah.
All right. We got to go, though. We'll talk to you again.
Yes, sir.
All right, my brother. Good. We'll take our last break and we'll be back.
When you bank your way, it's a
right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, and we do have calls that were coming in during the break. So please call now at 280-5848, and you're welcome to call and to weigh in and give your opinion on whatever issue that you would like. We received some calls during the break, and as I've said to these callers, I'm sorry, for some reason they're not hearing when we're on break. But you can call now. You know, we're back on the air, 280-5848. All right, there you go. Yeah, welcome caller. This person is gone. All right. Yeah. Yeah, 280-5848 is the number here, and you can feel free to weigh in. What we were saying earlier, and I'm glad that he brought up the idea of asylum, because of the fact that just this week I was talking to some people about the number of youths who were involved in gang activities who have tried to sneak into the United States, because they don't have visas, of course. So they try to sneak into the United States and then put themselves before the courts for asylum. But unfortunately, many of them come with a charge from here in Belize, and if they go over in the United States and the United States does an Interpol check on them and find out that they're wanted here, then they're being wanted by the police here, especially if it's a current charge. They will not be able to get asylum, even though some have tried. You will not be able if you have a current charge. But I have seen in cases where people, that as far as my experience is, you won't get an asylum if you are a wanted person in the Belize criminal justice system and you escape to the United States and then assume that the United States will give you protection against the law in Belize. That doesn't happen that way. Those cases that have been successful are those young males and female, by the way, who feel a threat on their life from other combatants, other youths that are involved in crime, and the assumption that if they stay in Belize, that they will be killed by another gang member, so to speak. And on that basis, they apply to the courts in the United States. Many times, they have to be incarcerated to go through sometimes even a deportation process before their case is brought forward. But I am familiar with a few cases where they successfully received asylum because they had a justification that if they had been brought back to Belize, there would have been a bullseye on their back, and the chances of them being killed was very, very strong. Welcome, caller.
Hello.
Yes, yes, welcome.
I wanted to make a comment on the radio. Am I on the radio?
You're on the radio? Yes, you are.
I am. Okay, thank you. Earlier, Mr. Mohammed, before his interview with the young lady who wrote the 2 books, he had started to make some comments about what's going on in the United States. And I'm really anxious and looking forward to hear what would be his comments about Mr. Trump saying he's going to take over Greenland, take over Canada, and rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He just seemed like he's this new dictator that is saying he's going to take over anything he wants to take over and rename anything he feels like renaming.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to hear Mr. Mohammed go back to the comment that he had started off the show with this morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, yeah. Well, actually, I did go back a couple of times, caller. I'm sorry you missed that. but in fact, it's an alarming point that I was making about this old idea, this old British idea that might makes right. In other words, he who has the power decides what the game plan is. And it appears that this is the thinking that's coming back in world politics. For some time, and I would put the benchmark around the time of the bringing in of the United Nations, the concept was to get away from only powerful nations run things, and that smaller nations need to just get in line. So the idea the United Nations gave us was that it would have been a little bit more equality of purpose and a sense that, you know, everybody has a fair chance, even though in the United Nations itself there was the inequality of the Security Council being all the powerful nations while the General Assembly was at the base. Yeah, welcome, caller.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, the whole world of everything Trump says, you guys can't believe already.
Yeah.
People get emotional about Trump's phrases or words that he uses and everything. You know, I mean, Trump says a lot of stuff in maybe the mass deportation and everything.
Yeah.
But certain things like, for example, my wife was a national South African for Belize, right? She won in Belize. I married her, and within 7 months she got her paperwork in America and everything. So don't believe that, right? You can be an American, I'm American, right? I'm born in Belize, related or last month and everything. Yes. And within 7 months she got her papers. So don't believe Trump saying, oh, you can't get your papers again. You know, there's a lot of talk, a lot of jibber jabbers and everything.
Yeah.
Even my brother, he got married in Belize too. You know, we're American, I went to school in Belize, but he married his wife too. He got married in Belize, fought for her while she's in Belize, and within 7 to 8 months, she got the paperwork, just as long as you got a clean background. Yeah. So, yes, sir, but yeah, those saying it's all good, but the border is getting real hectic, sir, because, Nuri, every time I go to Belize and come back to Houston or Miami, like any other trip, they put me in the back in the immigration office. And I'm American. You know, they want to know why I go to Belize so much for. You know what I'm saying? My passport is stamped like every 3 or 4 months in Belize, right? So every time I go to customs, I go to the back like I'm from South America. So I told the custom officer, the boss the other day, the next time you put me in this immigration thing, I'm going to fall down and twist my ankles and I'm going to fall along.
Yeah.
I'm American. So, yes, sir. Anyway, sir,
thank you. Take care. Good. Well, I won't give the number again because we were right at the edge of the end of the program this morning. But just to respond again to the caller, we wanted to show that the era of might makes right or rules over right was apparently the game plan of Mr. Trump. He's not concerned about whether the idea of renaming the Gulf of Mexico, which has been named the Gulf of Mexico for about 200 or more years, he's not concerned about, well, this ought to be the Gulf of America, and who's going to stop me? And then he's talking about the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. You know, we're not satisfied with how the canal is being managed. We think the Chinese have too much influence in the Panama Canal, and so therefore we're going to take back. That's the kind of language he's using. We're going to take back. Now, this is a sovereign country, Panama, who has sovereign control over the canal that was legally given back to them in a U.S. treaty signed in the Congress. So how is he going to unravel all of those legal procedures in order to send his military in to Panama to take over the Panama Canal. It just seems crazy. But if you understand the concept of might makes right, it is the mighty that decides the rules of the game and not those of us who are affected by it. Those who are affected by it, too bad. You can't do nothing about it because we are the mighty. And the world was run like that for many centuries. The British ran the world like that. Please don't think that this is a Trumpian kind of thinking. I mean, the British was such that, look, we rule and we run things. And the people of Belgium, when they went into the Congo, they didn't give the people human rights. They didn't give people structure. They didn't give people education. They wanted their rubber, and that's what they went there for. And the history of what they did in the Congo is clearly there. So these were people who, during that era, believed that might is right. And I also, Carla, brought in this doctrine, which has become a kind of a hidden doctrine now. But when we were younger, back in the 60s, we used to talk about the Monroe Doctrine and what the Monroe Doctrine looked at when President Monroe spoke about this wider vision of the United States, which went beyond the borders of the United States of America. So those were basically my comments, Carla, and thank you for reviewing it. And God willing, maybe we could pick it up again tomorrow. But we're at almost 9 o'clock now, and so we come to the close. We want to thank those who were in the background to bring the show to you today. That is our brother Joe Guerrero downstairs in the simulcast. Up here we had Christy Flowers, and of course Mr. Clifton Lewis is back. I did see Harlem around the studio this morning, but those are the main team players. Belizeans, stand strong and stand firm. Don't make all this noise throw you off, because it still comes basically down to what response you will get to doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. So do the right thing. For now, we're gone!
Wake up, Billy! Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is the show, my people. Billies, our hopes are to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. It's the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's all we need.